In this video, I get to talk about one of my biggest loves in Marvel Crisis Protocol, and also an affiliation that I think is really being slept on at the moment. So let's jump into it. Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And yes, the time has come. I eventually get to talk about my beloved Winter Guard. Yes, I know, they are not everyone's favourite, but I do genuinely believe that they are one of the most slept on affiliations in the game. So we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about the leadership. We're going to talk about the characters that they have, and the impact that the new characters that have been put into the affiliation has really had on them. Now, if you take a look at the affiliation ranking on Longshanks, which I know doesn't take all things into consideration. It's not every single game is played on there, but most competitive games are played on there. And if you look at games over the last year, you have to scroll a long way down to actually find Winter Guard. Being beaten out by X-Force, being beaten out by Unaffiliated, and in third to bottom place, only beating out Defenders and Sentinels when it comes to win rates. Expect that Defenders one to really go up. Now people are going to start playing with them again. And it's also fair to say that it's an affiliation that not a lot of people play. I only know one other really serious Winter Guard player, that is Phil, who is one of the mods on the Discord, but I believe that they have a little bit more to offer. So if you take a look at my own personal win rate, these are my top 5, and you can see that over the past 12 months, I have pretty much been exclusively playing Winter Guard and Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy considered after the changes, not even before the release of Cosmic Ghost Rider, but to be one of the strongest affiliations in the game. I've played 33 games in total, winning 25, losing 8. So you can see a very respectable 76% win rate. But look at the line above. Winter Guard, 25 games played, 22 games won, 3 losses. And some of these games, in fact a lot of these games, were against very good players at very competitive events. I played in an entire weekend. We played 2 events back to back. This was last year. We were over at, or maybe even earlier this year, but we were over at Board in Brum. And I played in the Web Warrior Protocols Invitational. I took my Winter Guard and I went 4-0, and I played against some really good players. Probably most notable, Joe Manji, who joined us on the live stream yesterday, and I beat out his Storm X-Men with Winter Guard. I think they've got some really good tech. I think they've got a fantastic leadership ability. So let's jump in and let's take a look at the beating heart of this affiliation, which is, of course, Crimson Dynamo. So Crimson Dynamo, he is a 4-threat leader, 4-3-4 on his stats. He's a size 3, he's a medium base, he's a short move, 6 stamina on his front, but he's got, first of all, a really nice builder, and a builder that at the moment causes some huge problems for some of those big hitters. First of all, it's a beam 4, 5 strength attack, and you get a guaranteed power for each attack made, whether you deal damage or not. But on a wild, it dishes out shock. Being able to get a beam with 2, 3, sometimes even 4 of your opponent's characters in there, and being able to dish out a shock is very good indeed. Plus, all of that power that you're generating off the back of those attacks means he's got a lot of power to be able to use some of the things that he wants to use. Homing rockets. I find myself not using this very often. I tend to be using it if I've got enemies around another enemy character that are within range 2 and they've maybe got 1 health left. And I'm sort of trying for that explosion so that it will do the 1 damage needed. It does ignore line of sight and they don't benefit from cover, so there are definitely some scenarios where that works really, really well. And we'll talk about the cover thing because at least the way that I play Winter Guard, ignoring cover is quite a big thing in there. But let's talk about Unbreakable Red Line, which for me is the heart and soul of the Winter Guard list. At the start of an allied character's activation, it may remove 1 special condition. Now we know that some of the big bads that are in the game, the likes of CGR, Thanos, Malekith, Malekith to a lesser extent, but still Malekith is up there. But these big hitters who really rely on being able to use both of their actions to make attacks, you can put a stagger on them, and if they're sat under Winter Guard, then they lose that stagger. Stun is a horrible condition to put onto one of your opponents. Once again, they can get rid of stun. They can do it at the beginning of their turn. It costs them absolutely nothing, and it just stops all of those really, really nasty conditions that mess up your gameplay, that don't allow you to do the things that you want to do, and really causes a bit of a problem for your opponent. But that is not just it. The other side, or the other part to this leadership, is when an allied character is contesting a secure objective and would be pushed. So any type of push, whether it's off the back of a attack, whether it's a tactics card, or indeed whether it is a superpower, it may roll a die. On a crit, wild, or block result, it is not pushed. Now, it's not quite 50%. I think it's sort of 3 out of 8, so whatever percentages that is. But there's some really nice game mechanics, especially at the moment, that it really, really does counter, namely Cosmic Ghost Rider. We know that Cosmic Ghost Rider is the big bad in the game right now, and I really, really believe that being able to stop those pushes that give you the incinerate is absolutely huge. It also means that you are far less likely to be pushed off a point. So characters who rely on control, look at the Wakandas, look a little bit at, Kingpin and those sort of characters. Yes, they've got a few more throws, but any characters or any affiliations that are relying on pushers to push you off a point so they can score it, Winter Guard, at the very least, have a chance to stop that. Let's take a look down at the rest of his card, because Crimson Dynamo is not only coming with a great leadership, he is a great 4-threat character. Look at some of the best players in the game right now. They are bringing Crimson Dynamo into their rosters as a splash character. So first of all, overcharge capacitors. It costs an action. It costs 0 power, but he gains 2 power. This means you've got some really nice potential janky stuff that you can do turn 1 with advanced R&D and turning on some characters who maybe need that extra power to do some of the things that they want to do. Next up, we've got propulsion thrusters, and this is really, really important to be able to line up those beam attacks absolutely perfectly. It costs 2 power, and he can place himself anywhere within range 2. Again, I tend to find myself using this to line up those perfect beams and really cause as much damage, but also dishing out that shock to as many characters as possible. Disruption field. So again, building all that power that he builds up, this is one of the main things that you're going to be wanting to spend it on. It costs 2 power, it's a reactive ability. When this character or another allied character is targeted by an enemy attack and the enemy is within 3 of this character, it may use this superpower. The character may reroll up to 2 of the attacker's dice. So what does this do? How does it work? Well, basically, during the modify dice step, there is and it's actually the last opportunity in the modify dice step, because the way it goes is you roll your dice, you explode your crits, etc., etc. And then the attacker modifies their dice. The defender modifies their dice. And dice modification is anything, rerolls, turning X into Y, whatever it may be. Then the attacker will modify the defender's attack dice. And this is where things like pierce and such things like that come in. And then lastly, the defender gets to modify the attacker's dice. So, there are lots of characters in this game that are looking for triggers. They're looking for wilds to be able to do pierce, or, a combination of dice to do certain things like dishing out stagger tokens or whatever it may be. Well, Crimson Dynamo can, for himself and anybody else in his team, as long as he's within range 3 of the attacking character, he can re-roll any 2 of his opponent's dice. Now, it's important to note that he can't re-roll failures, just in the same way that most characters can't modify or re-roll failures. So if you're coming up against a Cosmic Ghost Rider who's counting failures as successes, you're not going to be able to re-roll them, but he can re-roll a failure that is counting as a crit, for example. But typically you're going to be wanting to do this into characters who have those triggers, but just keeping up that survivability. It's not quite as good an odds as rolling into a success. So, you're still more likely to get a success, but being able to re-roll those 2 dice, combined with some of the other defensive tech that we've got in Winterguard, can really, really increase their survivability. We've also got Carbonadium Matrix Alloy, fairly simple and straightforward. When he would take damage, he reduces that damage by 1. Now, this is the version that is innate. He doesn't need to pay for it, so it does mean that it is to a minimum of 1. And then lastly, he has Flight. This ends up being more of a detriment, I would say, because he is only a short mover anyway, and we know there are some superpowers or some attacks and some tactics cards that do target characters with flight, but he's got it, it's there, it exists. So we don't normally rank the leaders in games, but for this one we are going to, and he in Winterguard is 100% S tier. He is the absolute heart and soul of it. The leadership that he brings is utterly amazing, and the things that he can do on the board is proven by the fact that so many characters take him, or so many players take him as a splash character in other affiliations. Okay then, guys, so next up let's talk about a very old character from the original core box, but a new addition to the Winterguard in the recent Affiliation update, and it is the 2-threat version of Black Widow, aka Natasha Romanova on this card, but they all have the same name, so they're all Natasha Romanov. What does she bring to the Winterguard? First of all, she brings a long move. We had, or there are no other long move characters in Affiliation, and generally they're quite slow characters. Medium base short move or a short base medium move. That's generally, or that is all you're getting. First of all, it brings a 2-threat character into the Affiliation, and the value in that is absolutely huge. She's not going to be doing a whole bunch of damage or anything like that, but she does have stealth, so it does mean that people need to get up close and personal. If you position yourself right, it means that you can try and get the rerolls that we just spoke about with Crimson Dynamo. Look, she's got mixed technique, which can dish out a stagger. It does need to do damage. But if you get lucky on those 4 dice, you can dish that out. She's got counter strike, so she can clap back a little bit, and she's got martial artist, so that 3-2-4 defense line isn't as bad as what it seems. But the main reasons, guys, is that long move. It's somebody in Affiliation who can play that extract play, which we've been lacking. She can run up, pick up an objective, run to the back point, and sit there happily, scoring you 2 VPs a turn. And if somebody does come up and get to her, well, you know, if you've got Crimson Dynamo there, maybe he can help. We've also got some other really good defensive tech with some of our other characters. She's a much, much needed and welcome addition to the affiliation. And for me, I don't think she's quite making it into B tier. And actually, before we jump into this one, let me explain the ranking system. We're ranking these characters, playing them in Winterguard. These are not necessarily the absolute rankings of these characters when you look at them across the board. A character's rank will change based on what affiliations you're comparing that under. So for me, she is an absolute solid. In fact, again, before we get on to that, so S tier is going to be taking them every single time, utterly amazing, do a great job. A is going to be, they must definitely make your roster. They're probably making 95% of your squads that you put in place. B is going to be absolute solid. You're probably taking them in your roster. C is a little bit lackluster in what they do. And then D is going to be just much better options out there in the game, either in or indeed out of affiliation to take into Winterguard. So for me, she's hovering somewhere between that A and B tier. I'm reluctant to put her up into A because since she's been in the affiliation, I haven't played her every single game. She's always made my roster, but she doesn't fall into that 95% played category. So unfortunately, I can't quite put her up to A, but she is pushing up at the very, very top of B. Let's jump over then to the next character, which is going to be Darkstar. And Darkstar can do some nice thing. She's got a range 4 attack builder. It's a flat 1 power. It's 5 dice. She's got rending force, which is when you get up close and personal, you do get to choose if it's physical or energy, which is quite nice. And it dishes out a bleed, which is okay. 3 power for a 7 dice attack is absolutely fine, I think. She does have Dimension Portal, and this costs 3 power. Place this character or another allied character within 3 and place it within 3 of its current position. A character can only be placed by this superpower once per turn. So you can move everyone on your team. But the problem is she really, really struggles with power generation. The maximum power she can generate per activation is going to be 2. So unless she's taking damage, unless she is something happens with advanced R&D, something like that, the maximum power generation she has is 3 per round. I think if this was reduced to maybe 2, or if her builder give her power equal to damage dealt, she may be in a much better position, but she really, really struggles to generate the power needed to be able to play this, even though it's a really, really good ability. As we often say, other outside factors can sometimes affect what you can and can't do, and this is most definitely one of those cases. We've got Dark Force Barrier. This is going to cost 3, and then when this character or an allied character within 3 is targeted by a physical or energy attack, this character may use this superpower. Add 2 dice to the defense roll against that attack. This character or that allied character cannot be advanced, pushed, or placed by the effect of that attack. This again is a really, really nice defensive superpower. Once again, it falls into the problem of Dimensional Portal, in that she doesn't have the power to do it. She does not have the power to do it. And that really is the biggest problem with Darkstar. I played her a lot in the early games just to give her a tryout, just to give her a test. And that is where she fell over on almost every single occasion. Her defense line 334 is perfectly fine for Winter Guard. They all have that extra one on their Mystic, which is, it can be really, really good. Mystic attacks tends to be the big bad attacks that characters have, or up against Convocation, something like that. So that one extra is nice there. 5 health stat line is absolutely fine. She also has flight on a medium move, which can be really, really good. But all in all, guys, I think she is a little bit lackluster for Winter Guard. I think you can play her, but you really need to be very, very selective when you're using those either defensive tech or her movement tech. Unlike Crimson Dynamo, who has all of the power in the world, she just really, really doesn't. And because of that, I'm going to have to put her into C tier. I do not include her now as part of my roster, and we will go through my current roster for Winter Guard at the end of this video, so you can see which characters I'm taking, but also which splash characters I'm taking as well. So yeah, unfortunately, a little bit lackluster and doesn't really do the job. Let's talk next about Arkady Grigorovich Rosevich. Again, one of the brand new members of the Affiliation, an older character that we've had in the game for quite some time, and a character that I've really, really enjoyed playing with. He's another 4 threat. He's on a short base, 334 stat line. Again, he's got that extra Mystic, and he's got 6 stamina on his front, and I believe 6 stamina on his back as well. Carbonadium Coils, a range 3 builder, is really, really nice. It's power equal to damage dealt, and he's also got Drain Life. If he does damage, he's going to heal himself for 1. So again, a little bit of survivability there. So next to them, we've got his Spender Red Terror, which is range 3, 7 strength, is going to cost 4. I think this is a really, really nice spender. It's on the expensive side, but let's read through and tell you what it does. So first of all, you get to choose whether it's going to be a physical or an energy attack, which is really, really nice because it means that you get to bypass potentially some of your opponent's defensive tech. And then on a wild, it has Absorb Essence. Change one of the defender's characters or defending characters' crit, wild, or block results to a fail. Why is the fail different and why is this just not a pierce? And why, in my opinion, is it better than a pierce? Well, for me, it's better than a pierce because of 2 reasons. First of all, there are characters in the game that count blanks. That's just what they do. And normally, a pierce would change it to a blank, meaning that up against characters like anyone with martial artists, Captain America, when he puts his shields up, or whichever version it is, I think on his flip side, it doesn't work. It's just another result for them. Yes, there are characters in the game that can count skulls or count failures, but they are far, far fewer than characters that count blanks. So, number 1, why I think it's better. Number 2, he also gets a power. Now, it does say this character gains 1 power for each die changed this way, which may lead you to believe you can change multiple dice with multiple wilds. That is not the case. You can only change 1 die. Really badly worded from AMG's part. There is if you want to go check it out, put in Red Terror on the rules forums. It explains why there, but it doesn't work for every wild you rolled. If it did, it would be even better. But that extra power that he gets from that just means that he's got, even on his spender, if you get it, it's costing 3, which is really, really nice. Death factor. Cost 2. This character or enemy character within range 2 of it with the poison special condition suffer 2 damage in the order of your choosing. This superpower can only be used once per turn. Now, it does say this character and other characters within range 2. A couple of things to point out here. Whilst it does state this character, Omega Red is immune to poison, as you can see down there at the bottom of his card, so he's never going to take this damage. It will, however, affect your own characters, and we'll get on to how that could affect your own characters in a moment. But if you're a researcher and you've dished out poison to 2 or 3 characters, spending 2 power to do 2 damage to each of them is really, really good. Ensnare, cost 2, it's a range 4 push. So push an enemy character within range 4 and in line of sight. So you do need line of sight for this one, towards the character medium. This is a medium push. This is really, really nice to try and isolate a character for everyone else then to pile in on them. A character can only be pushed by the superpower once per turn. So again, you can do this to multiple characters. And it means that because he has this, he can often get off 2 attacks in a single activation, because rather than moving and moving up to them, he brings them to him. Carbonadium armor, when he would suffer damage from an enemy effect, he gets to reduce it by 1 to a minimum of 1, so again just making him that bit more tanky. And then lastly, the thing that plays into his death factor is death spores. So this is going to be innate, and it's enemy characters that end their activation within range 2 of this character gain the poison special condition. Additionally, at the end of this character's activation, enemy characters within range 2 of it gain the special poison condition. So if your opponent ends their activation within 2, they're going to get poisoned. If they end, or if you end your activation with him within range 2, they're going to get poisoned. It's really, really nice in certain scenarios, right? It's a bit of a niche thing, but when it works, it can work really, really well. I really like Omega Red. He is a welcome addition to these guys, to Winter Guard. And for me, whilst I am most definitely not playing him every single game, he is absolutely making it into my roster. Just behind Black Widow in terms of where I put him and the work that he does, but he's a solid addition. He's a tanky character. Add in, the potential rerolls on defensive rolls from Crimson Dynamo means his survivability is really good. Plus, when he activates, he can potentially be healing himself twice as well, which I really, really like. Next up then, let's take a look at one of the original Winter Guard characters, Red Guardian. He is Russia's answer, or the Soviet Union's answer, to Captain America. You guys have probably all seen the Black Widow movie. He is a stalwart for me. He makes it into every single game that I play, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Strike is not an attack I often find myself using a lot, but if you're up close and personal, range 2, 5 strength, only gains 1 power from it, which is a little bit meh, but it does have a guaranteed size 3 push on there, which is really, really nice. He's 3/3/4 defensive stat line, so again falls into that Winter Guard category of always having an extra 1 on Mystic. He has got shield thrower, and it is the pretty standard shield thrower. So range 4, gives 1 power, ignores line of sight, does not benefit from cover, again playing into that cover game. Does not benefit from cover, which is really, really nice. And then ricochet on a wild, which allows you to target another character within range 3 of your original character, but that second attack doesn't have the ricochet rule. Siberian Shield Slam is the one that I tend to find myself using when I am up close and personal. It costs, it's a range 2, costs 3, and is 6 strength, but it's not really the damage that we're hoping for here. It is the guaranteed size 3 throw, and it is an omnidirectional throw as well. It is after the attack, so if you do somehow spike and manage to kill your opponent, then you don't get to do it, but it is really, really nice. Focus Repulsion Field, cost 2. When he's targeted by energy or physical attacks, he gets to count blanks in his defense roll, which again, that combined with the rerolls from Crimson Dynamo means he's got much, much more survivability. And then Red Guardian Suit, when he would take damage by an enemy effect or an allied effect. After the effect is resolved, if this character is not dazed, it gains 1 power. So if you would take 3 damage from an opponent, you would gain the 3 power from that, but you would also get your extra power as long as you weren't dazed, which again just really helps with his power generation and means that you're able to get Siberian Shield Slough online much quicker. But he is often a little bit of my battery for other things as well, and we'll get into that when we start talking about the tactics cards that these guys have got access to. He has access to an absolutely amazing tactics card. Now, I can't quite put him into the upper echelon of S tier alongside Crimson Dynamo, but he most definitely makes it into A tier. He's got an amazing tactics card. He can do a lot of displacement, and again, he plays into my game of no cover, which I do really like. Okay then, guys, next up, probably the character that everyone was most excited about playing for Winter Guard, because who the hell doesn't want to play a great big bear? It is, of course, Mikhail Ursus, aka Ursa Major. 7 stamina, he's on a medium base, short move, again, struggles a bit with that movement. He's a 4 threat, he's size 3, he's 3/3/4, so again, pretty good defensive stat lines. Barehanded slap, range 2, power equal to damage dealt, which is out of bleed. It's quite nice. Bare-armed brawler, 2/7/3, so range 2, 7 strength, costs 3. Before damage is dealt, it's going to be a guaranteed throw for size 4 or less. And once again, it's omnidirectional, and it's a short throw as well. And after the attack is resolved, the target character gains the stagger special condition, which is really nice. The throw and the stagger, especially against the size 4, is really nice. He has a charge, so the only character in the game, or the only character in Winter Guard that does have a charge. I think so. I maybe need to check out the last character's card. Cost 2, pretty standard charge. So you can use either Barehanded Slap for free, so it'll just cost you the 2, or if you spend 5, you can use Bare-Armed Brawler, which is really nice. Ursine Temper costs 3. Choose an interactive terrain feature of 3 or less. Within 2, throw it medium. It can only be used once per turn. It's quite nice. It's the only terrain throw that we have in the affiliation. But again, he's probably wanting to be using that power for his charges rather than his throws, but he does have it there. And lastly, he's got aggressive. After an attack targeting this character is resolved, if this character suffered damage, it may advance short towards the attacking character. I am coming round. Guys, to Ursa Major. You guys have heard us talk about him a lot in the past. Is he the best 4 threat in the game? Absolutely not. But I am coming round to him. He's probably been a little bit overshadowed now with Omega Red coming into the affiliation, who definitely outshines him. I haven't played enough games with him or at least of late, to really test him. But I have a sneaky feeling that he could be a little bit of a secret weapon. I played a game against Phil the other day, and he used Ursa Major. He's been running him in his Winter Guard list, and he did work. He did absolute work. So because of that, and this may shock quite a few people, I am not going to put him into D tier. He is going to go, for me, just above Darkstar. I think he is a better option than Darkstar in affiliation. He would really benefit from a medium move, just so he could get up there and in the thick of things much quicker. But he really does benefit from some extra power early on. And yeah, I'm coming round to the idea of Ursa Major. Let's jump over then and take a look at our last character. And that is going to be the brand new Winter Soldier operative, James Bucky Barnes. He's a 4 threat version of Winter Soldier. 4/3/4, so a huge boost to his Mystic Defense from his 3 3-cost counterpart. He is 6 stamina. He's a 4 threat, size 2 medium move, small base. Spec Ops rifle is quite nice. Range 5 with a 5 dice on there. Power equal to damage dealt. It's got suppressive, which is really, really nice. The character loses 1 power for each wild that you roll. It is before damage is dealt, but even so. Concussion grenade is really, really good. It is range 3, cost 1, and it's going to be a 5 strength attack. If it deals damage after the attack is resolved, the character gains stun. Plus, on a wild, after the attack is resolved, the character targeted by the enemy characters, the target character and enemy characters within range 2 of it gain the shock special condition. That can be absolutely brutal on some of these maps that go down the middle, and it can work really, really well. Hit and run costs 2 power. It does what hit and run does. You make an attack and you get to move. It's really, really nice. Kill box, a reactive ability, costs 3. When an enemy character ends or is an advance or is placed within 4 of this character may use this superpower. Choose an interactive terrain feature size 3 or less and within range 2 of the enemy character that was advanced or placed. Destroy that terrain feature. The enemy character suffers a collision as if the terrain feature had collided with it. The superpower can only be used once per turn. So for 3 power, it's essentially the same as throwing a size 3 piece of terrain into them. So it is 4 damage incoming. But remember, guys, if you do, it happens on your opponent's turn. And if you do, or it typically happens on your opponent's turn, not always, but if you do get it off and it does daze them, their turn ends. You can also do it on your own turn. So, if you advance a character, if you place a character as well, it won't work with pushes, it doesn't work with throws, because it's not a movement. So it is just advanced or placed. It can be really good. It can be really, really good. Spetsnaz training, just because reroll 1 within 1, and then stealth, so you've got to be within range 3, which is really nice because it does really play into that kill box side of things as well. Guys, I am a big fan of Winter Soldier or Winter Soldier Operative. It's also worth noting out that he can act as a rogue agent as well, so he does work as a rogue agent. It isn't just not on his card. I really, really like him, guys. I am taking him more and more. And for me, he goes up into that A tier. He is very, very good. A welcome addition to the Winter Guard, and a character that I think has a lot of legs and can really, really do some damage, especially with dishing out those shocks. It's really, really nice indeed. Okay then, guys, so we've gone through the characters and where I think they sit under Winter Guard. Now let's talk about the tactics cards that they bring, because whilst they only have a couple of affiliated tactics cards, they have most definitely got some really, really good ones, and actually some of the characters that come in Affiliation bring some really, really nice tactics cards with them as well. So let's start out with Ursa Major's card, which is Bear Hug. It's unaffiliated, it's reactive. When a character declares a move action while within 1 of an allied Ursa Major may play this card. The enemy character may spend 3 power. If they do not, they can only use the short movement tool when resolving this move action. Yes, this can be okay in certain scenarios. It's not a card I'm finding myself playing anywhere at all. Even if I'm taking Ursa Major in my roster, he just doesn't need this card. Yes, it can stop some, a potential charge or something like that, a Zemo getting to where he wants to go or something like that. But for me, it just doesn't do enough work. And because of that, it is unfortunately our first entry into D tier. I just don't think it's good enough at all. It doesn't really add any value. and there are far, far better tactics cards out there that you want to be taking with these guys. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at Omega Red's card. Carbonadium Synthesizer, once again unaffiliated. It's an active card, and it is Omega Red may play this card. Remove all special conditions from this character. It removes 1 damage and gains 1 power for each special condition removed in this way. Whilst this card I don't think is anywhere near to being stapled to Omega Red, I actually really, really like it. Not even just for getting rid of the special conditions, but actually just getting rid of, or just getting the extra power and removing a damage as well. I think it's a perfectly fine card. If I saw it in somebody's roster, I wouldn't think it was absolutely crazy. For me, I think it doesn't quite make it into that B tier. It's probably at the upper, high end of C. But I think it's a perfectly serviceable card. I just think there are probably better non-character specific cards out there that you maybe want to take. But again, it's something that I need to have a play around with and need to look and need to see, how it works. Maybe on particular matchup, particular scenarios where that you're going to be getting lots of conditions, this could actually work really, really well. And it does work out of his activation as well. So even if somebody's left him on 1 or 2 health, and he's got a couple of conditions on him, then yeah, it's pretty darn good. But again, I just think there are probably better cards out there. Let's take a look at a card that is most definitely stapled to Red Guardian, and that is Comrade's Keeper. It's unaffiliated, it's reactive. When an enemy character targets an allied character within range 3 of an allied Red Guardian with an attack, he may spend 2 power to play this card. Place Red Guardian within 2 of the allied characters, so that would be the character that was originally being targeted. Red Guardian becomes the target of the attack regardless of range and line of sight. So if you end and you're outside of a range 2 attack, for example, your opponent still gets to do it. But if you do get yourself into a position where you have cover still does count. If Red Guardian suffers damage from the attack and is not dazed, that's an important part. After the attack is resolved, throw the attacking character away from Red Guardian short. So it is a throwaway, but it is an any size throw. It is essentially Winter Guard's Heroes for Hire. It is an absolutely amazing card. It is stapled to Red Guardian. It is in every single game that I play. It does absolute work. It is S tier for me. It's one of the best cards that Winter Guard have access to, even though it's a character specific card. But it is really, really good. Really, really good indeed. Let's take a look then next at Darkstar's card, Dark Aura Manifestation. This is unaffiliated again, it's reactive, and it's something she's going to be doing during the power phase. And she gets to spend 1 power and play this card. This round, other characters within range 3 of Darkstar roll 1 fewer defense dice when defending against energy attacks. This card is double-edged, and it's double-edged because of the word characters, not enemy characters. And because of that, I really, really do not like this card. We know that Guardians are in the meta at the moment. Energy attacks are rife with those guys. CGR does energy attacks. For me, it is not worth taking to take up a slot in your 10, and it's definitely not worth taking to take up a slot in your 5. For me, it goes below Bear Hug, because at least Bear Hug can do something that isn't detrimental to your team. Dark Aura Manifestation is detrimental to your team as well. I just really do not like this card at all. Let's take a look next then at the Fusion Caster, which is going to be Crimson Dynamo's own card. During Crimson Dynamo's activation, he may spend 3 power to play this card. Crimson Dynamo use the attack listed above once this activation. And the attack he gets is Fusion Caster. It's a beam 3, 7 dice, 0 cost, but obviously you're paying the 3 power to use the ability. When rolling additional dice for crit results, during each attack, roll 2 additional dice instead of 1 for each crit in the attack roll. But after each attack is resolved, this character suffers 1 damage for each crit in the attack roll. Again, I am not a fan of this card. I don't like things that can kill me. I want to be keeping Crimson Dynamo alive as much as possible. He already has a really good beam attack that's beam 4. Yes, it's only 5 dice. Yes, you don't get the extra dice from the crit, but you're not taking damage. And if we take a look again at Crimson Dynamo's card, when this character would suffer damage from an enemy effect. So it's not a case of even if you roll 3 crits and you would take 2 damage rather than the 3, because it doesn't work with that. For me, not a fan of this card at all. I would probably say for me it goes below Dark Aura Manifestation. I just really do not like this card at all. Not a fan of it in any way, shape or form. It's not my gameplay with Winterguard, and it's not the way that I want to play games. I don't want to sacrifice my leader and my, one of my big hitters in terms of what he can do in terms of those beam attacks. So yeah, unfortunately, Crimson Dynamo, great character, pretty poor card. Let's take a look then at one of my favourite cards, not just in Winterguard, but in the game. Sovereign Strike. It's Winterguard, it's active. Any Winterguard character may spend 3 power to play this card. Choose an interactive terrain feature of size 4 or less within range 4 of the character that played this card. All characters within range 1 of the terrain feature destroyed suffer 2 damage. It's then removed from the battlefield. We've seen this on other characters as well. Mystique can use it, but it's an action. Punisher can use it, but it's an action. The number of times where I've done my beam attacks and have 2 or 3 characters lined up, all with 1 or 2 health left, and my opponent thinks they've got away with it, and then I pull out this card, because it can be anyone, right? It doesn't need to be their activation. They can blow up a size 1 piece of terrain, or they can blow up a size 4 piece of terrain, or anything in between, and it's going to do 2 damage to everyone that is within range 1, including yourself. I think this card is absolutely amazing. I really like it. It always makes my list. It doesn't quite make it into that S tier, purely because I'm never using this card unless I'm in a position where I can daze or KO at least one character, and that doesn't always happen. Yes, I will always take this card in my squad. It will always. The first 2 cards I pick are Red Guardian's card and then Sovereign Strike. But just because there are a couple of other requirements, Red Guardians are always going to get to use his tactic ability, his card. He can even use it on himself. But for me, it doesn't quite make that S tier because of those reasons. But yeah, still a very good card, and one that I would highly recommend taking if you are looking to play Winterguard. Next up, we've got Winter Rush. It's a Winterguard only card. It's reactive. During the power phase, any number of allied Winterguard characters may spend any number of power to play this card. If 6 or more power was spent to play this card, each time an allied character is damaged by an enemy effect this round, after the effect is resolved, another Winterguard character may advance short towards the enemy character that caused the effect. This card is one that I think in certain matchups has some usability. 6 power is a lot. That's one of the biggest things that was really, really difficult with this card. But whereas in the past I would have ranked this card much lower, I think now because we have more Winterguard members, it's far more viable. I think it is far more viable than what it was previously. So for me, I think whilst it's not a card I'm going to be using every single time, I think now it's a perfectly serviceable card, and it's a card that I could definitely see myself using more because we've just got access to more characters who can generate that power. Just getting back onto a point if you did manage to get pushed, or just lining up to make sure that you can get a Crimson Dynamo within range of the next attack so that he gets to use his defensive tech, or, plethora of reasons for out of activation and even out of turn movement. Out of turn movement is really, really good. This card gives you that. So yeah, I quite like it now, and I think with the addition of more Winterguard characters, it's going to be far more viable and could be a card that you see played a little bit more. Lastly then, we have got Vertical Assistance. This is a card that comes in the brand new core box. It is for Natasha Romanov, and we have a version of Natasha Romanov in our Winterguard now, so we get access to this card. During Natasha Romanov's activation, she may spend 2 power to play this card. Choose an allied character within range 3 of Natasha Romanov. The chosen character gains the Wall Crawler superpower until the end of the round and immediately advances short. I really, really like this, guys. I think, again, Black Widow is going to be one of those characters in Affiliation that isn't going to be up close and personal. She doesn't have a huge amount of things she wants to spend her power on. Yes, we've got the Winter Rush. Yes, we've got Sovereign Strike. But I think this is going to be a really, really good card for Winterguard in particular, because we do struggle with movement quite a bit. I can see this card getting played a lot when you play Black Widow, any version of Black Widow. I really, really like it. It can be the difference between scoring a point and not scoring a point. It can get somebody up close and personal so that then when you do activate them next, they can make 2 attacks or make a charge and an attack rather than having to use one of their actions to move up the board. Again, it can get characters like Crimson Dynamo or Red Guardian into better positions so that they can do the things that they want to do with their defensive tech or with his Comrade's Keeper card. So yeah, really, really like this card. I can see it being played a lot. It only costs 2 power, which Natasha isn't going to worry about. For me, it goes into A tier, just behind Sovereign Strike, because I really, really like this card. Okay guys, so that is a breakdown of everything Winterguard, and I know this video has gone on for a little bit longer, but I've been dying to make a video on Winterguard because I really, really do think they are one of the most underrated characters or underrated affiliations in the game. I've thought that from the beginning when I started playing them. I think it even more now they've got access to these other characters as well. So let's jump over and I'll show you the roster that I'm currently using. Now, it's worth pointing out this isn't a finalized roster. I haven't had my 50 to 100 games that I normally like to play with a new roster, but I think it's got some really, really good tech in there. We're taking some other characters who can really benefit from that leadership, so let's jump on over and take a look. Okay then guys, so here we go. This is my current, again I want to emphasize that It has not had the playtesting that I would usually do with a brand new roster, but this is my current Winter Guard list. So starting out, let's pick out the Winter Guard characters. Obviously, we have got Crimson Dynamo. No surprise there whatsoever. We've got Omega Red. We've got Black Widow. We've got Red Guardian. We've got Ursa Major. And we have got Winter Soldier Operative. So yes, Dark Star does not make it. I just really struggled putting her in. She just doesn't do a good enough job at what it is she is there to do, unfortunately. Couple of splash characters, or actually 4 splash characters that we've got in the roster, which is far, far less than what I used to have. And I'll explain what my roster used to look like. First of all, guys, is Taskmaster. And I want to preface this and say that I have been playing Taskmaster in Winter Guard for the past 6 to 9 months. So before he got the upgrade, which was only minor with his shield throw, but he was always my 3rd member. So it would be Crimson Dynamo, Red Guardian, Taskmaster were my core. Because now we've got Black Widow, she has somewhat replaced Taskmaster as being one of those core characters. But he is just absolutely amazing. Let's have a look at some of the things that he does. First of all, he's a 3 threat, which is, more than welcome. I only have 3. In fact, I only have 2 3 threats in my roster. And again, that's something that I've been playing around with. His shield thrower now does power. It's got the ricochet rule. He ignores cover, which is really, really good. But where I find him to be absolutely amazing is with his mnemonic technique. Range 2, cost 2, 4 base strength. But add dice equal to the target's physical defense, and the target character cannot modify or reroll dice during this attack, or defense dice during this attack. That means that he is slapping 8 dice into a Cosmic Ghost Rider, and they cannot use rerolls from the Guardians. He's slapping 8 dice into a Logan, the Wolverine. He is, against physical-based characters, he is very, very good indeed. He's also got intuitive pattern recognition. So if you hit him twice on that second attack, irrespective of the type of attack type that it is, he's going to get to add 2 dice to his defense roll. He's also got martial artist, so he counts blanks within 2 from energy and physical, which again is really, really nice. It mitigates that pierce and things. And then photographic reflexes, cost 2. If they're within 3, you get, after the attack is resolved, you get to roll 4 dice and just deal a damage for every crit and wild. If this is the second time they've attacked him this turn, he gets to roll 6 dice instead of 4. It's really, really good. I've been saying for a long, long time, I have preferred Taskmaster as a rogue agent, even to the original Winter Soldier before Winter Soldier got his changes. He's a very, very different type of character, but he is very, very good indeed. We've got Bill, guys. Bill is just, I think it's fair to say, the best 4 threat in the game right now. He does a huge amount of work. He has terrain and enemy character throws, something that we are lacking a little bit. He gets the additional power range 1, which means he is my eyes on the prize play. Nothing shocking there. He also dishes out stun, which is huge against Cosmic Ghost Rider. He also dishes out shock with Summon the Storm, which again is big, but he has rerolls against characters with the flight superpower. This guy is really, really good. Specific matchups and scenarios where he really, really does shine. And that 4/4 stat line on his physical and energy makes him much, much tankier than you would think. And the fact that he can spend 1 and reduce damage by 1 of any sort. And it's not even to a minimum. So Bill is a really, really good character to take along. Next up then is Angela, one of only 2 5 threats, and I don't have anything higher than a 5 threat in this list. You'll notice there is no Cosmic Ghost Rider in this list, but Angela 4/4/4 across the board, long move, medium base. She really comes into my extract play. I've got one of my extract crises where she is played every single time. And I often find when I'm playing with her, I'm not really rolling many dice, which I know it sort of goes against the whole Angela play style. But she can run up, she can grab a central objective, run back, and if there's another one there, she can either pick up another objective. In particular, we're talking about using her with the cubes, or she can flip an objective if we happen to find ourselves on a pay to flip. She's also a little bit of anti-Guardians tech, because people can't modify or re-roll dice when they are targeting her with attacks. So that's really nice. She's also got a terrain thrown there as well, which is medium, which again is pretty good. And if she does need to do some damage, if people get up close and personal, she can pop off. Like I say, there is really only one crisis in this list, and I'll show you the crisis in a second where she comes into play, but she does a really, really good job there. The other 5 threat that I favour in most other matchups and most other scenarios is Ulik. I absolutely love this guy. Really plays into more of the control side of how I play my Winter Guard. Crushing Leap is amazing. If you can get 1 power onto him round 1, which we often do with Winter Guard, it means that he can do a Crushing Leap around 1, so he gets to make a short advance, he gets to place himself 2, and then make a Pounder's attack. The thing about this, guys, is this is a pseudo charge. It is not limited to once per turn. And on the back end of his Pounder's attack, on a wild, he gets an omnidirectional push against characters that are size 4 or less. He can also dish out Stagger, which is really nice, or he can dish out an activated token if he gets the crit, wild, hit, fail. We have no dice manipulation in this roster. I'm looking at a Zemo potentially for that, but just haven't found the spot for him quite yet. But yeah, Ulik does some absolutely amazing work. Also gets an extra power during the power phase, so is another character that can potentially be my eyes on the prize play should I wish to. So, there is a chance that Bill one day maybe gets dropped from this list. Today is not that day, but I still have that eyes on the prize play if I need it. Let's go down and take a look at the crisis cards that we are bringing. And these are, very, very different to the types of crisis cards that I would normally play. I normally go for slow scoring. That is not what I am about when it comes to Winter Guard. I want to score as many points as early as possible, because whilst we have some attrition play, we struggle against some of the really big hitting teams like the Black Orders, like the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we've got Infinity Formula. We've got lots of people wanting lots of power. So Infinity Formula is great. Also B-Maps, other people don't like them. I really don't mind them with Winter Guard. It allows me to do some really nice turn 1 plays. So yeah, really like that. Intrusions, this is one that I am toying with the idea of getting rid of. It's okay, it's okay, but I maybe want to swap it out for a riot or something like that. It's in there at the moment. It does allow me to do some little janky stuff and move up twice to the middle and then take a character to each of the opposing or each of the sides. But yeah, that's the one. That's one that I'm not certain of. One that I am certain of, however, is Superpowered Scoundrels form Sinister Syndicate. You've heard me talking a lot about ignoring cover. I can take an entire team that pretty much ignores cover or is going to be able to get in range where it doesn't matter. I can go quite wide, not quite as wide as Guardians, but I can still go quite wide. And I have a lot of control and a lot of pushes with what Ulik can do. He tends to be my last activation. So he can walk up to that middle and push 1 or even potentially 2 characters off that middle point, meaning that we already get a lead and we take 3 VPs from the secures going into round 2. Fear Grips, guys, we all love hammers, as we know, apart from that one guy. Paranoid Pummels, again, this is super quick scoring. I really like this one. with Winter Guard, and I can also again use Bill if I need to go up and pick this up, and he won't take the damage. Or there is an option there to excuse me, to use the Eyes on the Prize play and still take the damage as well, but making sure that we are as close to everybody else as possible so that we can get that extra VP. So there's 6 VPs that can be scored in total, 3 for you, 3 for your opponent, or 5 as a maximum for you. So again, super high scoring. And lastly, struggle for the cube. This is my Angela play. She has the ability to move up to the middle, take the middle one, and then move back. That only really works if you have priority. So there needs to be the right setup for that. But again, I just really, really like these fast scoring scenarios when we're talking about Winter Guard. We're not winning via attrition. We need to win by scoring VPs. First half of the tactics cards, we have got vertical assistance. We spoke about that and how good I think it is. Advanced R&D. So this is a card that we haven't talked about yet, but my first restricted card. Depending on the setup, depending on what it is, this doesn't really work as well with hammers, especially if I don't have priority. But being able to move Crimson Dynamo up once, use his activation or use an action to generate 2 power, and then give 3 power out to people, can turn so many things online round 1. We can get the hit and run from Winter Soldier. We can get a charge from Ursa Major. Ulik can either use Crushing Leap or his card, which we'll get onto. Omega Red can do a ensnare round 1. Bill can do a throw round 1. Angela means that she can do throws and all sorts of other stuff there as well. So yeah, really, really like Advanced R&D. It does some absolute work for us. Comrade's Keeper, we've already talked about. We don't need to go into that. Eyes on the Prize, guys. We all know the player with Eyes on the Prize. It's really, really good. Mark for Death is another card that could be swapped out, I think. I'm looking at other cards to replace that at the moment because the games I've played, I've just not found myself using it. Mission Objective, I did have Toad in my list at one point before 2-cost Black Widow came out. There's an argument to say he could still be in there for the extract play, but Mission Objective is just a really, really nice way of making sure that we don't lose those objectives when we get dazed. Patch Up, really good, just keeps our characters alive. Rock Control is really good. Spend 3, range 5 place. And again, we can turn that on round 1 should we need it. Just sometimes terrain is in the way or you don't quite get the right angles for that short move, range 2 place, and then the attack afterwards. So if I need to, I'll use Rock Control. Sovereign Strike, we've already spoke about how good it is. And then yes, Winter Rush is a card that I do have in my list. I think it's really, really good. I think, again, the one card that I would look at replacing from this is Marked for Death. And it probably gets swapped out for fallback, if I'm being perfectly honest. Just stopping those double hits from some of those big hitters in the game, or at least causing them to have to do something else and not target the same character twice. So there we go, guys. That is my breakdown of all things Winter Guard. I do genuinely believe they are a very slept-on affiliation. You could easily put characters into this list like Hulk, like Cosmic Ghost Rider, the big hitters, because the moment they become immune to all of the things that turn them off, means they can be very, very good. I've purposely, in this roster, tried to stay away from some of those big characters. Who knows? I may swap some of them out in the future. But I'm having a lot of fun with this list. I managed to make it to the cuts in TTS, or in the current TTS season, with this roster as well. As I mentioned, I've won multiple events with it, and that was all before we got the upgrade. So I really, really enjoy them. I hope this video inspires people to go and check them out. As we've seen, guys, there's a huge gap between this is not me blowing my own trumpet, but my 88% win rate I think is pretty darn good. It's something I'm really, really proud of. When you look at what the average is, which is like 42 or 43%. So I think they are a very, very slept on affiliation. I think there is a huge amount of work you can do with them, and I recommend you go out there and check them out for yourselves. Guys, if you could do all of the usual things, make sure you subscribe, make sure you've left a like, make sure you share and comment on the video. All of that stuff really, really does help. Comment, let me know, have you guys played Winter Guard? Has this video turned you on to them to make you think that you could try them out? I think with the new characters, they're really, really good. I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters who really, really do help us on the channel. And from as little as £1 a month, you can help us continue to be able to make these videos as well. So big shout out to everyone in our Patreon community. You guys really, really help us. Big shout out to Leodis War Games as well, the sponsor of the channel. There'll be a link down in the description below where you can get a £5 voucher off the back of your first order that is over £50 or more. We're also running weekly MCP and Shatterpoint leagues over at Leodis Games as well. Plus we run some one-off events, so if you want to go and check them out, go and have a look at the website, see when they're playing some events, and who knows, we may even meet there as well. And finally, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.